Hello, I'm Robin Gibson, and this is the Harvard House Money Morsel. Welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. Don't forget to like and subscribe and click the bell so you get a notification of when we're releasing a new video. I'm sitting again today with Michael Porter. Hello, Michael.
Yeah, morning, Robin.
Well, Michael, lots of things going on that we can look at. I see that the US has revised their GDP. What was it, the first quarter, the second quarter?
Second
quarter, up from 3%. I'm envious. To 3.3%.
Would we love 3.3% GDP growth?
And I mean, off the size of that economy, it is pretty impressive, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what really drove that, Michael?
Yeah, there was a little uptick in a revision in consumer spending, but probably the largest portion was actually the revision, because it was 3. Yeah, it's gone to 3.3. Is business spending,
Okay.
and that's really been driven by investment, Robin. So what we would call GFCF, gross fixed capital formation, and yeah, it's being driven by, I think we've acknowledged before that every country has underinvested in basic infrastructure. There's an element of that, and then it's being driven by AI, and obviously investment into data centers and the infrastructure around it,
Yes, yeah.
And we've been saying that at our presentations for a while, and that's why we've got companies like Ashtead, Schneider, Caterpillar, those kind of companies in portfolios, because they are some of the beneficiaries of this massive investment that's going on.
Yeah.
So so it's nice to see that. I think so. Yeah, I mean the US is interesting. Just, I mean, you never know what you're going to get every day. Two things also stood out for me this week, Robin. I mean, obviously the assault on the Fed continues.
Yes.
And it's really generating a huge amount of, say, controversy. I mean, yeah, maybe controversy is the right word. Obviously, Trump trying to fire
Lisa Cook.
Cook. Yeah, sorry, I just forgot her name for a second. But yeah, I mean, I think it's almost a certainty that the Fed starts to cut rates next month, and it probably is about time. But yeah, the other thing that's happened in the US this week, and actually comes into effect today, the 29th of August, is this phasing out of the de minimis rule. So little parcels that are under $800 didn't attract any import duties.
Okay, yeah.
So if you were sitting in America and you actually wanted to order something online in the UK, didn't attract any duties. With effect from today, that changes.
Basically your Temu packet, eh?
Yeah, exactly. Okay. And it'll affect people like Temu and Shein a lot, but it applies much broader than that. The Economist reckons that 1.36 billion packages were imported into the US last year.
Wow.
Under that threshold, and so now they face duties of between $80 and $200 per package, depending on which country it's come from, because they're just applying those basic tariffs. If it comes from China, it gets that tariff without looking at the actual goods yet, but that will come. So I just think that some of these things that we've been talking about for a while are going to start making themselves felt in the next couple of months, because I mean, already Americans are suddenly, I'm sure you've ordered something from Shein or Temu. I have once or twice, and you get an email saying you have to pay the duty. And you don't know whether it's a scam or not. And by the time you've figured all that out, you get your stuff, but you might have had to have paid 100 or 150 rand.
Yeah.
Americans aren't used to that, and now suddenly they're getting bills for a couple of $100, and it's a lot more expensive than they thought they were paying. So, consumer habits are going to change. Reactions are going to change. It's just interesting. But some of these things that Trump has been pushing are now starting to come into effect.
Yeah. So, Michael, I mean, just we're going to segue across to South Africa, but maybe just staying in the US and the investment into AI and Schneider and everything that we've talked about there. At the back end, data centers ultimately are built out of metals, really, aren't they? I mean, it's a tailwind into the mining sector, isn't it?
The data center is just a big warehouse, Robin. So you've got all the steel that goes into a warehouse and things like that, and then inside it you've got shells and racking and obviously chips and hardware. I'm sure everybody's seen pictures of data centers where you just got rows and rows of computers. But yes, it's ultimately all comes down to metals and things like that. And so yes, I mean, obviously there's a glut of steel at the moment. I think Chinese is producing, China's producing too much steel, and obviously America's now put import tariffs on steel and aluminium and things like that. So it pushes up those kind of costs as well. But at the end of the day, Robin, I go back to something I said many times before when I had lunch with the CEO of BHP Billiton many years ago, Brian Gilbertson. And cell phones were quite a new thing, and he was saying, you guys, you want to invest in Apple and this and that, and he said, just remember that your cell phones and your TVs are not made without my lithium and my aluminium and my this and that, and I think that's commodities are commodities, but they still drive. Ultimately, it's where everything starts.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was actually going to make the same quote because it came to mind when you had shared it to us back then. But Michael, coming across to South Africa, I mean, one of the best things we could ever do is invest in education, and there's been some huge news locally on that front, hasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, sure. So Curro had their results on Tuesday, and the results were relatively muted. For those who don't know, I'm actually the chairman of my children's school, and so I have intimate knowledge of how a school's finances work, I suppose. And it's a difficult, I've always questioned, we've never invested in Curro because I've always questioned, why would you pay out all the profits to shareholders and not reinvest them in the schools and the facilities and things like that? Well, that's hit home. Yanni Mouton, who's elderly now, but his son, through his foundation, his charitable foundation, he's buying out Curro. So he's essentially swapping stakes in Capitec and PSG Consult for Curro. And he's turning Curro into a not-for-profit organization, Robin. So exactly that. In the future, profits that Curro generates will be channeled back into the schools and into bursaries, building the bursary pot, obviously investing in new facilities, investing in new schools. Listen, Robin, I mean, I think as a business, as like-minded people, we believe heavily in education, and that's the panacea to many of the world's problems. So this is a wonderful gesture for the future of South Africa, really. And I don't think it's going to drive down the school fees in the short term, but you are creating a situation where the profits that get generated go back into, and whether it's more bursaries and school fees might fall over time, but whether it's more teacher training, whether it's whatever you want to do, if you're improving the educational outcomes in this country, that has got to be of huge benefit to us all. It's really it's an amazing gesture. I mean, I think, if you want to leave a legacy, wow, that's a proper legacy.
And Michael, I mean, it would be massively transformational as well, I guess. And one of the things, government talks transformation but can't execute transformation. Here's a guy who's putting his money where his mouth is, and it certainly will have a transformation because it'll be handled by a corporate, not government, won't it?
Yeah, exactly, Robin. I mean, the education sector, we have invested in, well, PSG was actually probably one of the companies that really decided to invest in areas where the state was failing, and maybe Remgro as well. If you think of hospitals, you think of education, and those kinds of things. So actually in 10 days time, we're in Joburg presenting Insight, and I'm actually got a day with various education companies up there, Stadio, which was also a part of PSG, Advotech, which is another schools group, which is, consistently performs very well. The Curro was meant to be there, whether they'll be there now, I'm not sure. But I think education is an interesting place, Robin. But sure, I mean, just the power of reinvesting all that money and being able to build new schools or add facilities or, create depth in your schools, I think is going to be enormous. And the benefit won't be felt next year, but in 10 years' time, you will see the benefit of that coming through. It's really a wonderful legacy. I mean, we talk about the Oppenheimers and, the Ruperts and things, but Yanni Mouton is going to be remembered in the same vein.
This has put him on the map, hasn't it?
Yeah. Well, he was always on the map, but now he's also going to be front.
From a philanthropic point of view, I think he's probably on the map.
Absolutely, yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Bye-bye.